What do Shakespeare, email, and your grandma's cooking have in common? Today we're going to explore a fascinating concept. A concept that was celebrated in Nassim Taleb's work on his books, The Black Swan, Anti-Fragile, and this concept is the one and only Lindy Effect. And what is the Lindy Effect? Well, in a nutshell, it is the longer something has been around, the longer it's likely to continue to be around. For instance, in your city, there might be a restaurant that's been around for decades. And when you think of it, do you think that this restaurant will keep in business for the next few decades, or the one that has just opened up, that one special ultra vegan, ultra upscale restaurant that just opened up, who do you think will survive? Or that mom and pop shop that has been around for 30 years in your city? I'd say the mom and pop. So this principle helps us understand why some things become classic while others fade into obscurity. And why is this important, you might be thinking? Well, in a world obsessed with the latest trends, the newest technologies, basically shiny object syndrome, understanding the Lindy effect can help us make better decisions. It can guide us in what to read, what to eat, even how to live our lives. And it's a lens through which you can evaluate the staying power of ideas, of technologies, of traditions. Basically, it's a framework to see what will stick because the good thing sticks in the end. What we'll talk about today then, it's a bunch of things. So we'll talk about Grandma's kitchen, why some foods and diets stand the test of time. The good stuff sticks, how to identify what will be likely to be relevant in the future, the importance of sticking to fundamentals, why you can use Lindy consciousness so you don't fall victim to shiny object syndrome, the difference between signal and noise, how to filter out the noise and focus on what's really important, becoming a classic, the reason why originality is your secret power. So let's dive in and explore why the Lindy effect can be applied to the most unexpected of places. And we'll start with your grandma's kitchen. When you eat something, you should think, would Granny recognize what I'm eating as food? Because we're so obsessed with eating processed foods, of living in a world of convenience where you're thinking more about price and quickness to get your food than you're thinking about nutrition. But of course, every food is processed in a way or another, unless you're eating a fruit, bear, the bare fruit, everything will be processed. But there are things today with artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, artificial everything, actually, stabilizers, everything you can imagine, hormones. Should we be eating this? Should we be eating things that are made so palatable, so convenient that you just can't get enough of them? Probably not. So when you remember, picture this. Imagine you are in your grandma's house when you were a kid. Imagine the smells of grandma's cooking. Imagine how you can feel your mouth watering thinking about your grandma's cooking your favorite dishes. And you smell that smell of freshly baked bread or the sizzle of fish frying. That's real food. That's food that has not only love, that's not the one and only secret secret ingredient in grandma's food. No, there's something else. And it's nutrition. Yeah, because your body, it it's screaming for nutrition. If you give it trash, it will give you a trash body back. What goes around comes around. So if you fast forward to today, your grandma would probably squint at your food and ask, "What on earth is that? What the fuck is that?" Because she wouldn't recognize half the stuff we eat now. It's not what she considered food. If you want to live to 200, if you want to have longevity and not only a big lifespan, but also, and more importantly, a big health span, so it's not worth it if you live to 100 years old, but you live like a vegetal, like a vegetable for the last 20 years of your life. What's the point? No, you want to live healthily. You want to be like those Okinawan grandmothers who live to 100 and live well. But how can you do that? Why are there places called the blue zones where people live to 90, 100, 100 plus with a relatively healthy lifestyle? Well, the thing is, these places, they have a few aspects of their lives that stand the test of time. They have exercise, they have community. But one of the most important aspects is, of course, their diet. If you eat fish, olive oil, a glass of wine, things that have stood the test of time, you're probably going to have a good answer from your body. So you might think, for instance, if you have, like me, a Southern European heritage, a Mediterranean heritage, maybe your DNA is predisposed to eating a similar diet because that's what your ancestors centuries ago were eating. But maybe if you have an Asian heritage, you should be eating what people eat in Asia. Maybe you have Japanese grandparents, maybe you have Chinese grandparents. You should think of things that they would eat and try to eat them in your daily diet. So the Lindy effect isn't just about what's on your plate, it's a universal principle. It applies to pretty much everything. Because the good stuff sticks. Think about this. What will still matter 200 years from now, in 2223? If I had to bet with you, if I could offer you a once in a lifetime deal, that you'd have to pick a list of 10 books, films, and technologies that would still be around in 2023. And we bet that if you get it right, you will get $1 trillion. We will freeze you, and if you get it right, 200 years from now, we will thaw you from the cryogenic freezing, and you'll get $1 trillion. Of course, it's adjusted for inflation because by then, $1 trillion will probably be worth a can of Diet Coke. But if you get it wrong, you'll be a permanent popsicle. You will be freeze forever and ever and ever and ever. That's cool, right? But I have a strategy for you. Here's what I would do. I look back at what has stood the test of time for over 200 years. For instance, what do the Odyssey, the Bible, and the Godfather have in common? It's that they have proved their worth. They have themes that resonate deeply within us as human beings. And that same logic can be applied to technology. If you think about technologies, you can think about items that cater to our most basic of needs, to the things that are outlined on the first steps of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They are more likely to stick around. So if you think of a knife and a fork or a nuts and bolts, they're more likely to be around, even if slightly different 200 years from now, than some other newer technologies. Some of the apps we have won't be here because they won't be needed anymore. But simple tools, things that have been around for ages, they will sure be here. They won't go anywhere anytime soon. Unless, of course, and if this happens, you don't have to worry. If our future robot, machine, overlords take over, you don't have to worry about anything else. So keep the simple tools, keep stuff simple. So who's safer to bet for long-term relevance? If you had to bet between Shakespeare or the latest, most hyped up self-improvement or economy book, who would you bet on? I bet on Shakespeare any day, anytime. And why? Because it sticks to the fundamentals of human nature, the fundamental aspects of storytelling. And fundamentals are fundamental for a reason. Like Michael Jordan said, if you get the fundamentals down, oh yeah, oh yeah, get the fundamentals down at the level of everything you do will rise. So if you're great at the fundamentals, everything you do later will rise to the level of greatness of your fundamentals. For example, life is a series of actions. Each action builds upon the last. So your actions become habits, your habits become your future, your destiny. When you focus on making those tiny 1% improvements every day, and you do that consistently over a long period of time, you're mastering the fundamentals. What these basics do is that they serve as a bedrock upon which everything else is built upon. So you stack them slowly but surely. You create a base and then you start building up, up. And the more time-tested the fundamentals you build upon are, the more likely they'll remain relevant in the future. So I have 3 evergreen principles across many fields that I'd like to talk to you about. So first of all, in ethics, we've all heard about the golden rule, that rule that says you shouldn't do to other people what you wouldn't want them to do to you. And that's something present in the Bible. That's something present in pretty much all of the sacred scriptures out there. And I've researched, and it says that Confucius, the Chinese philosopher, used to talk about this 500 years before Christ. So it goes around for millennia already. And that's staying power. That's something that won't go away. Treating other people the way you want to be treated is something that won't go away. And what about investing? You've probably heard of the Buffett rule. He has 2 rules, and the first one is the most important. You know what it is? Rule number 1 in Warren Buffett's playbook: never lose money. And then you might be asking, okay, then what's rule number 2? Never forget about rule number 1. It's much easier to don't make silly mistakes than it is to make home run bets. And Warren, he's an investment legend in his own right, but he is also one of the greatest disciples of Benjamin Graham, who wrote The Intelligent Investor. And that book was written back in 1949, so almost 80 years ago, and it's still relevant. People still read it and still get a lot of value. Of course, the stock market, the financial markets have changed a lot since then. There were many things that you couldn't do today that you could before, and vice versa. The world is very different. We have access to information at our fingertips that only kings could imagine having. Actually not. If you go back to like the 90s, we have access to more information than the president of the United States, like the most powerful man on earth. It's bizarre. And people still waste time looking at cat memes, at TikTok videos. But you are not one of these people, are you? You're here because you are looking for self-mastery, and that's the next one. That's the Aristotle principle. So Aristotle said that "I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who overcomes his enemies." For the hardest victory is victory over self. If you can't beat yourself, you can't beat anyone else. If you don't have control over yourself, how will you lead other people towards a goal? Now that we've laid this groundwork, I want to delve into another potent tool for making decisions, and that is the Lindy consciousness. It's sort of like that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because we live in this world plagued by shiny object syndrome, by the next big thing, the next big actor, the next big sports scene, next big superstar, the next big TikToker technology, all the buzzwords you can imagine. It's a neophilic word. So a word that's in love with the new. New is always better. If you guys remember on How I Met Your Mother, Barney Stinson used to say new is always better. But let's get this thing straight. New is not always better. Not. Sometimes new can be much worse. Really, sometimes the new can be much worse. It's no wonder why there are Ted Bundys in this world. No, I mean, not Ted Bundy. What's the name of that accelerationist guy, the Unabomber? Ted Kaczynski. There are many people that believe that technology is more a bane of civilization, more a burden than a relief. And as an engineer, as someone that tries to solve problems for a living, I don't think that is exactly true. The world is much better today than it was decades ago or centuries ago. The average person has better access to food, to health. But we can't become victims of our success. We can't become slaves to technology, that's for sure. So, do you ever wonder why your mom would get so annoyed when you moved something and you didn't put it back? Might have been something trivial for you, but perhaps she was onto something. Because if something has been a certain way for a long time, it's probably for a good reason. And of course, not always, but there are many things that we do for a long period of time that we don't even know why we do it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense anymore, but it did make in the past. But, anyways, this is Lindy consciousness. The idea that the longer something has been around, the longer it's likely to continue around. The principles that applied 1,000 years ago will still be applied 1,000 years from now. And they can be built upon, of course. If you think about Einstein's theory of special relativity, it revolutionized our understanding of physics and the universe, especially when you're at speeds close to the speed of light. That is the theoretical limit of speed in the universe. But by him describing the laws of physics near the speed of light, did this make Newton's laws obsolete? Of course not. His work stood on the shoulders of giants, on the shoulders of Newton's principles. And Newton's laws, they still hold true in the vast majority of applications. In your daily life, unless you're dealing with electronics, which we do all the time, of course, but with everything more physical, you don't need to think about relativity as much. However, there are a few things that relativity has helped us, like GPS and other things related to communication that would be simply impossible to have without this. And something else that I think is very important and that sometimes gets conflated in our minds is that we forget to filter for the signal. In our world, there's too much information. Our brains weren't made to filter this much information at a time. Imagine when we started as a species, we were supposed to be in small groups. We were supposed to know 100, 200 people at most. And we simply wouldn't come into close contact to other groups as much. Maybe if we maybe we could have neighbors, we could get in a war, or maybe we could trade with them. We wouldn't have this close contact and know things happening on the other side of the world in real time. So it's just too much information for us. We weren't made for this. There's a lot of noise and there's not much signal. And filtering for the signal is very important. It's not very important, it's fundamental in our world. And this concept of signal and noise, it originates from the field of signal processing. So imagine this: you're on the car listening to the radio, and your favorite song is playing. You're having a blast. You're singing. You're doing the air guitar. You're playing the imaginary drums, and suddenly you enter a tunnel, and the music is replaced with that grating static noise, that boring noise of nothingness, and it's annoying. Or maybe if you remember when you were a kid and your grandpa had one of those old ass TVs, and when you turned it on, you you were looking for a channel to watch your cartoons, and suddenly you found a non-existent channel, and there was just this wavy thing, that static noise, those grainy images. Well, that's noise. You were looking for the signal of the cartoons, but you only found noise. And just a fun fact, that noise actually is called cosmic microwave background radiation, which is a faint echo of the Big Bang. So this is something that even in the most desolate of places in the universe, you will find the cosmic microwave background radiation. It's like a baseline of radiation that you find everywhere in the universe, even in vacuum. Pretty weird, right? Well, anyways, in both those scenarios, in your car or watching your grandpa's TV, the noise distracts from what truly matters, and that's the signal, that's the song, that's the cartoon. And the closer an item or an idea aligns with the fundamental principles, the more likely it will pass the Lindy Effect test on time, the Lindy filter. And on the flip side, if something has an appeal that's due only to its novelty, its chances of enduring the test of time are very slim. So, whenever you're faced with this dilemma, you can ask yourself, if this object lost its shiny newness, would it still hold value? If you think about this, you will probably not face shiny object syndrome as much. If you think, oh, this probably won't be as valuable 6 months from now, so why bother? You're just wasting your time. Thus, oh, it's a matter of procrastination. You're just procrastinating. Maybe it's an active procrastination, but you're still going away from what you should be doing by doing this. And what will stand the test of time? Well, like Italo Calvino said, an Italian author, a classic is a book that has never finished saying what it has to say. So, have you ever wondered what separates a classic from a forgettable book? It's the signal to noise ratio over and over again. So, the more signal you have in relation to the noise you have, the better. A classic is a masterpiece of density. If you take The Godfather, for instance, each time you watch The Godfather, you'll uncover another layer of its intricate storytelling. You'll notice different things, you will notice different quirks, you will see Michael through another lens. You'll see that maybe Tom Hagen was right. in his way of thinking, but there were information that he didn't know. So that's why he ended up not being a wartime consigliere. Like the Don himself would say, time erodes gratitude more quickly than it does beauty. So gratitude is not Lindy immune. Or if you think about some classical music like Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Vivaldi, every time you listen to these songs, this music, they review a new instrument, a new passage that you hadn't listened to before. You hadn't noticed it. So creating a future classic requires this almost maniacal obsession with quality. It's a trait that's shared by the likes of Christopher Nolan, of Quentin Tarantino. It's that indefinable essence that forges this deep connection between you and the creator. And by saying this, I can both mean you watching this and the creator of the art piece, and the creator of the art piece and the creator himself, God, or however you name him, God, nature, universe, however you name it. Because being creativity is putting ourselves in contact with the creator, is doing something of the essence of the creator. And these classics, they encapsulate fundamental truth. They're uniquely shaped by the author's life experiences, and they are an arrangement of thoughts and ideas that can be groundbreaking, even though there's nothing new under the sun. So, when you're going to do something, you should think, what is something that only I could create? All my unique experience, all my unique skills, everything I've done, everything I've read, everything I've watched, listened, all the talks, all my thoughts. What are unique things that only I could create? Originality is your ticket to becoming a classic in the end of it. Like Roy Acuff said, don't be a blueprint, be an original. Why the hell would you be a blueprint when you can be the original? The world is already crowded with NPCs all around. If you go to any major city and walk downtown, they're all like this, looking down at their cell phones like if they were fucking robots. You're not an NPC. If you were an NPC, you wouldn't be here. If you are a fucking bot, please unsubscribe. I don't like bots. Only the helpful ones. So, remember Richard Feynman from our previous episode? What set him apart wasn't just his physics ideas. What set him apart were his quirks, his idiosyncrasies, the things that made him weird. And he even used them to become a better physicist. So what sets you apart isn't just your skills, your talents, it's your unique blend of life experiences that you can combine to these skills. It's your unique flavor, and it's what will make you stand out in a sea of sameness, because everyone's the same. If you go on X, or if you go on Instagram, or if you go on TikTok, everyone's the fucking same. I don't want you to be the same. If you're watching this, you're smarter than average, and you can do better. You don't need to be just like everyone else. You don't need to think, oh, I need to blow up on my first video and then overthink it, and not do anything. That's just procrastination. Kill perfectionism, kill procrastination. So, now that we've delved into the Lindy Effect, the power of classics, it's your turn to become timeless. I challenge you to apply the Lindy Effect in your life. What's one timeless principle you've always resonated with but never fully embraced. What's that unique trait or skill of yours that could stand around and stand the test of time? I'll challenge you to apply the Lindy Effect to these aspects of your life and share your journey. Please think about everything you've done. Think about your experiences. Think about your quirks. Think about your talents and how you could use them to make the world a better place. And not like on the guru style BS shit that they'll tell you. No, make the world around you a better place. Help people out. Help people you know. Help your family. Help your friends. We can't change the world, but we can change ourselves. And by changing ourselves, we'll change the people around us, who will change themselves, and they will change the world. So it all starts with you. You need to start a revolution from your bed, like Oasis used to say. So this is my challenge. I want you to go and find what will stand the test of time, apply it to your life, use your unique skills to make this world better. All right? Thank you for coming to the Rock and Roll to Success. And now you need to turn this off and just go, go, go.